Nebraska takes down Rutgers. Everything is right in the world. Nebraska played at home. Nebraska won their game, and nobody can really ever come into Lincoln and defeat the Cornhuskers because they're just invincible at home, other than Creighton. Creighton is the only team that is able to do that. So this was a game that Nebraska obviously just lights out shooting. Kasai Tamanaga, he really wasn't all that lights out shooting himself. He was 1 for 6, but still he was able to make plays. Not the passing assist guy, but able to make plays and get his shot, get around the rim a little bit more, which was nice to see. Kent, let's go to you first. What were your thoughts on just like Kasai Tamanaga, the game overall? I mean, we knew Nebraska was probably going to win this one. Did you have any big thoughts?
Not any huge thoughts. Like, you pretty much covered it all right there. It's really tough to win at Nebraska, almost impossible to win at Nebraska. But just based on like the overall vibe of the game, I don't think that Rutgers really did a bad job defensively because they've been playing pretty well defensively lately. It's just that Nebraska is always humming when they're at home. It's just really tough to stop them, no matter how good you are or how well disciplined you are assignment wise. Speaking of Tominaga, by the way, I did retweet something that was pretty cool today. Nebraska basketball put out like a little 3-minute video about him, and he was talking about how like Nebraska's his second home, and it was really cool. Like I like kind of got chills watching it. Like, everybody loves Casey, and like if you haven't seen that yet, either go to my Twitter or just straight to Nebraska's basketball Twitter. Check out that video. Super easy guy to cheer for. But yeah, as far as the game, kind of like you said, what we expected. I thought Nebraska was going to win big in this one, and they did. And yeah, just like you said, man, what we expected. I'll just repeat myself because I don't know what else to say.
What do you think, Russ?
Yeah, so I mean, if I had to pick an all-energy team, Tominaga and Alec are both going to be on it. Like, they're a lot of fun to watch. Like, if I pick the most energetic and most fun guy to watch, I'm biased, so I'd probably pick Lance Jones. You guys have seen the Lance dance and those videos and things like that. But if I have to pick someone not on Purdue, Tominaga's at the top of that list, and Alec is probably not far behind. They are very high energy. They're a lot of fun to watch. They have a lot of fun playing the game. They don't take it too seriously, and those are the kind of guys I like to root for and like to see do well. And, Tominaga led them in scoring tonight, had a really good game. Even Alec had a double-double on his senior night. So it's really cool. This is the time of year where you get to see a lot of those cool stories like Kent was talking about, like that video where, a lot of teams are worried about postseason and the tournament and all that stuff. And that is important, and that kind of supersedes everything. But you get to see these senior night stories and these guys that, four or five of the best years of their life are spent at these universities playing this sport, and they might not ever play it again at a high level. So it's a pretty big deal to see some of these careers come to an end. That, some guys have traveled halfway around the world. Some people like Caitlin Clark have set scoring records, so like it's a lot of cool things you get to see come to an end at the end of a season like this, besides just March Madness and the tournament and things like that. So.
Yeah, for sure. Ted came in here and says no one from outside the state of Nebraska can win at Nebraska. Great point, Ted. Great point. Yeah, that was another thing I was going to bring up, Russ, is that, senior night, I mean, obviously these guys, not only did they want to win, but they wanted to win in such a way that, they were remembered and they had their time. And it felt like Tominaga, like it felt like they were feeding him a little bit more in this one because they could kind of tell, the story and everything else with it. Like, just a really, really cool experience. And it's nice when, you schedule a team you feel like you can beat. I'm not trying to say anybody's bad or anything like that, but a team you feel like you can beat on your home night or on your senior night, because then you just feel better about it. Now, I'm sure Maryland felt that way going against Indiana, but Indiana played spoiler to their senior night, which was obviously heartbreaking for them. But for a team, especially like Nebraska, who not just they have these player stories, but just kind of the team story, not just this year, but like going into it as well. If anybody here has followed Nebraska basketball, you have figured out and heard the stories of, Fred Hoiberg trying to bring over the Iowa State system and not working. He's adjusting his recruiting. Nebraska's being patient with him, kind of giving him his time. And even when everybody on the outside thought, oh, Fred Hoiberg is going to be fired soon, they're giving him his time and saying, we believe in Fred Hoiberg, and look at where it's got him. I mean, they are a top 4 team in the Big Ten. I'm not afraid to say it. They are one of the 4 best teams in the Big Ten this year. It's obviously Purdue and Illinois at the top. And then I think Nebraska does make a case for that 3rd spot. It was Wisconsin earlier in the year, but to see them kind of fall down here lately, we'll talk about them in Illinois later. I think they do have a viable argument for being the the third best team in this conference. And if not third best, they are fourth best. And it's really interesting. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but just because you're on the same topic and I just pulled it up, that's what I was looking up. Actually, with today's win and Northwestern's loss, I just pulled up the bracket. They are number 3 right now in the tournament. And
I thought they were going to be, or they were. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
If I did this right, it looks like that they are number 3 now in Nebraska is now, and Northwestern drops to number 4. And that's kind of what I was going to ask you guys about too, because someone made a really interesting point on Twitter about Nebraska possibly, like, I know either way you're going to have to see Purdue or Illinois in the semis, no matter what, if you have aspirations of winning the Big Ten tournament. But they were saying that it might be a little bit better to be towards the top of it in the fact that you would get to play the 5 seed instead of Michigan State, or like, I know there's a lot to determine still with 2 games left for some teams, but what do you guys think about that? Would you rather be the 3, be at the bottom and have to play Illinois, or would you rather be the 4 and then have to play Purdue in the semifinals? I guess we got a Purdue guy on. They beat Purdue at home by a lot. So would you rather try to play them again or no? If you're Nebraska, this is.
1 second. I do think Nebraska is still 4th because they're tied in conference wins. They do have more overall wins in 21.
They also have one more loss. I think they're
so. The website that I'm using, they give you the reason for the tiebreaker, and it says that Nebraska is above Northwestern based on the winning percentage against the number 1 team, which is Purdue. And Nebraska has beaten Purdue, and Northwestern is 1-1 against Purdue.
But Nebraska still has more conference losses.
Yeah, they're still a half game back technically.
Right now?
Yeah, because Northwestern's 11-7 in conference, and Nebraska's 11-8. So Northwestern's got to play.
So I think if they do tie.
Oh, yeah, you know what? I didn't click the no game for everybody else. That's on me. My bad. It had all the other games playing out. That's my bad. Let me check it now.
You are correct. If
you're right,
tied,
you guys are right. I take it back.
If they are tied, then
my bad,
they
dude.
will be.
I just clicked the games for today. I forgot to click the games for next week. My bad.
Ask your question again.
Oh, I was just saying, would you rather see Purdue in the semis or Illinois in the semis if you're Nebraska?
Illinois. I don't want to play Purdue.
I don't think it really matters too much at this point. I mean, I think that I would rather be a team that plays, if you need wins and you're trying to make the tournament, I would rather almost be playing on Thursday instead of Friday, which an interesting thing that was said too in the game was Nebraska's never played in the Big Ten tournament on Thursday, ever.
Wow.
Because whenever they played on Wednesday, they've always lost and never made it to Thursday.
Yeah.
So, but I would want to be a team that plays on Thursday, regardless of seeding, so you can get a chance to have a win on Thursday, a quarterfinal win on Friday, and then worry about who you're going to play in the semis on Saturday. So, because Illinois, like we'll get to them later, Illinois is very, very efficient offensively. They're a very dangerous team. You kind of know they're a little bit one-dimensional, but at the same time, Purdue, there's a recipe to how you beat Purdue, right? We've got 3 conference losses. We're not perfect. So, I think it matters more to try to get a couple winnable games in the tournament before you have to worry about playing in Illinois or Purdue.
Yeah. Jeff asked a good question here. I think he's talking about when I was talking about the 3 or 4 best teams in the Big Ten. It says, what about Northwestern? Guys, I would personally take Nebraska over Northwestern. This is just me personally. However, what do you guys think? You guys also taking Nebraska over Northwestern?
Is he just asking who's better between those 2 teams?
Yeah, I think he's just asking who's better because they're right there in the standings next to each other. Like, who is a better team overall?
For me, for the whole year, I think Northwestern's been better. It's tough to say that today because they just lost. And obviously Nebraska just won, so there's a little bit of recency bias. But right. I think that Northwestern is still a more complete team than Nebraska. That's just me personally. I think they have a better I think Boo Buie is, especially late here in the season and when tournament play starts, I think that that's the guy that you're going to want. And I think that they have enough down low and enough pieces that they're going to be a little bit better in March. That's just my opinion. But obviously, like I said, it's tough to say that today because Nebraska just won big and then Northwestern lost. But I'll take Northwestern, though.
What do you think, Russ?
Yeah, I mean, you already heard me fanboy over Tominaga and Alec, and I love Wilcher and Mask as well. So I'd have to go Nebraska because they are the hotter team. I think they're also the deeper team. Northwestern doesn't have as much, varied scoring. It's kind of like, is Boo Buie going to go off for 20-plus points, or are we going home? I think that's what their tournament looks like, whereas Nebraska, they've got a few options where they could, beat you a couple different ways. And so I would take Nebraska over Northwestern for sure.
Yeah, it's an interesting argument, and I think just as many people as say Nebraska, there's probably a similar amount to more probably that might be saying Northwestern. So it's definitely a viable argument. So I guess Nebraska, we could be saying, is a viable argument for fifth in the Big Ten as well. Thanks for correcting that there, Jeff. My big thing with it is what Philip brings up here: Northwestern with or without Barry, and that's a really important distinction to make because Northwestern.
Well, they're without him for the rest of the year, right?
Right. They're a different team without him. Guys, I do want to ask one question before we move on from this game. So obviously this is always a hotly debated topic because, the high teams up there always want their guy. Yeah, I know, Russ, you're itching for this one. They always want their guy to be coach of the year. And I get it. All right. I'm an Ohio State fan in football. I'm like Ryan Day or whoever, these guys should be coach of the year and all this stuff. But it's an award that the best coach never actually wins it because that's the way it's like who had the most impressive season because you stunk last year or you're at a program that's not as good. But Russ, we'll go to you first. Should Fred Hoiberg be the Big Ten coach of the year?
Yes. I'll surprise you and I'll say yes. Okay. Like you said, that was kind of be my statement was that it's not an award for the best coach in the conference. It's the best above expectations, really. Is what it is. It's not who actually recruited the best team and has the best program right now. And it's frustrating as a Purdue fan. It is. I get it. Purdue's the first team in Big Ten history to be number one 3 years in a row, right? He took a guy that was ranked in the 400s and he's going to be back-to-back National Player of the Year. And he's going to have no Coach of the Year awards to show for it in any of those years. So it's weird, especially like last year we were picked fifth. So it wasn't like last year we were, they're going to run away with the conference and be first, but we were picked fifth and we won it by 3 games, but Northwestern still gets it because Northwestern was picked last and they make the tournament. So I've kind of made peace with that. And I do think Hoiberg, when you look at that and look at the way they award that award, it does go to a coach that exceeds expectations. Now, there's a guy at Ohio State that if he gets that team in the tournament, it's interesting to see how many games you have to coach to be Big Ten Coach of the Year because how many times has a coach got fired for performance in the middle of the season and somebody takes over and makes the tournament, especially that late in the season. So, but yeah, no, and I also want to say, I think it was on here. I don't know if it was season preview or after the hot start Nebraska had that I called this. I said, Nebraska's going to be a double bye team. They're going to be top 4 in the Big Ten tournament. So I'm going to have to go back and clip that receipt once, if Nebraska makes it, because they are in the 4th spot right now. So just saying.
I think it was after the hot
Clip
start.
it, baby.
Don't give yourself too much credit there, Russ. Kent, what do you think? Fred Hoiberg, Coach of the Year?
I'm fine with it. I'm not really someone that's going to go crazy about whoever gets it. I mean, if it goes to the best coach, it's Chris Collins every year. He's the best basketball coach. Period. I'm not even joking about that.
No, I know.
I think he is the best, actual able to coach basketball coach. So I think he would get it every year. But I did just pull up the list, though. 4 out of the 5 years, the last 5 years, it has gone to the team that did finish first in the Big Ten. So that's pretty interesting. But going back to exactly. And it's funny. Matt Painter started that trend back in 18 and 19. So he did get one back then. And that's what kind of started. There was 4 years in a row. It went to guard Juwan Howard, believe it or not. And then guard again. And then Collins last year, who was second and close to first last year. But I still think Collins deserved it last year. I will say, though, Russ, one point that you made is that it's an award kind of to someone who has exceeded expectations, right? So if I was going to list another guy that I think is very deserving of the award, it would be Ben Johnson this year because their expectation was last place and they're right in the middle of the pack right now. As of even like a week and a half ago, had NCAA tournament aspirations, maybe still do, possibly, depending on how the season ends. It's going to be kind of a long shot at this point with their non-conference schedule. But Ben Johnson, Matt Painter, Brad Underwood, or Fred Hoiberg, I would be fine with any of those 4 guys getting it, and I'm not going to throw a fit who it is. But I think it's obviously going to be one of those 4 guys.
Yeah, I think it's either Hoiberg, Johnson, or Diebler. I don't think Diebler wins it just because
Diebler? You think there's no way, dude.
I don't think he does. I'm just saying he's in the conversation. Like when I see people bring it up, those are the three guys that I see the most commonly brought up that I feel like can win it. Sonny again is bringing up Brad Underwood for us, and Sonny, that's why I said the thing earlier about like the powerhouses don't get it. Like Illinois is a powerhouse in basketball more often than not. And even though they've not had the deep tournament runs, like you can always count on Illinois to be a really good basketball team in the Big Ten year in and year out. And so like, it's just one of those things where like the expectations for Illinois are never all that low. So like Russ said, like you're never going to get that high exceeding expectations. Like, yes, Brad Underwood is 15-0 against Greg Gard and Juwan Howard. And I think the Illinois fans expect him to be 15-0 against those two guys, right? I mean, like that's what you want. So while I agree, Brad Underwood is one of the best coaches in the Big Ten. It's one of those things with like expectations, you know. So it's such a crazy award. Philip Gard has just beneficiary of low expectation. It's not too often you win the award twice. I'll leave it there. It's not too often the award is won twice. So, and then we got some people for Ben Johnson, Dave, obviously in there. And I would not be upset with Ben Johnson or Fred Hoiberg. I think both of those guys are deserving.
Is the award given before or after Selection Sunday? Because I think if Minnesota makes the tournament and then the award is awarded after the Selection Sunday, I think that really helps Ben Johnson's case.
Listen to the Big Ten Huddle. Please do like and subscribe. We appreciate that. If this was your first time listening, we are the Big Ten Huddle. We cover all things Big Ten football and basketball. We have a long episode every Sunday, Tuesday, and Wednesday night, all at 9 o'clock. So come in, check us out, get in the chat, let us know what you're thinking. We would love to have you join us and learn more about the Big Ten.